Well, so if you've been watching TV3 News, the details of this report, some of which is not going to be new to you, because what the U.S. Department of State has done, Portia, they've chronicled a number of the stories and events that we report, and then also some of the reports that is available to them as a State Department, and then based on that, on all those chronicles, they do the analysis and come to the conclusions captured in this particular report. Now, let me take you through the pointers of this report as captured in this U.S. State Department country report on human rights practices with specific reference in Ghana. First, they look at respect for the integrity of the person. A, that the government or its agents committed arbitrary or unlawful killings. B, that though the Constitution and laws provide for protection against arbitrary arrest and detention, the government frequently disregarded these protections. Also, the judiciary was subject to unlawful influence and corruption. That's captured in there. They make reference to certain reports of allegations of bribery of some persons within the judiciary for a certain case to be ruled on in a particular way. They make reference to that. Also, respect for civil liberties is one of the areas they capture in the report. That there were isolated attacks on journalists by members of security forces as well as by unknown assailants and occasional threats and intimidation. They make specific reference to the Caleb Kuda case that we reported here widely. And that's what they make reference to under this A. And the B, that the government generally respected freedom of association, but it restricted freedom of assembly. In that aspect of the restriction of the freedom of assembly, the report makes reference to the activities of LGBTQ groups in this country and the fact that some of them, 21 of them, were arrested, if you recall, somewhere in the Volta region sometime last year. That government did not restrict or disrupt access to the internet or censor online content. That they say there's general freedom there. Now, freedom to participate in political processes. The report says that domestic and international observers assess the December 2020 presidential and parliamentary elections to be transparent, inclusive, credible, and reflecting the will of the people. Now, you already know, we went to the Supreme Court to have the determination of the winner of the presidential election in 2020. But this is the report making that conclusion. Also, they talk about corruption and lack of transparency in government. This is an area that, according to a report, that though laws provide criminal penalties for corruption by government officials, the government did not implement the law effectively, and officials frequently engage in corrupt practices with impunity. That's according to those particular details of the U.S. Department of State report, specifically on the rights and the focus on Ghana. Professor Aning is the Director, Faculty of Academic Affairs and Research at the Kofi Annan International Peacekeeping Training Center. He joins me on the telephone for a bit on this one. Prof, good evening to you. Thank you for your time this evening. I know that the aspects of the report you're still looking at, but these are not new. I mean, if you look at it, what's your reaction to the general conclusions that this report puts out there, please?
I mean, look, why the hell should we wait for some country to write a report about us and then we tend to react? Were you to put 20 Ghanaian scholars and human rights activists together, we can write a world report about the United States. So this report to me is rubbish. It's a disgrace that we are wasting time on it. And I think it should be treated with the contempt that it deserves. I think after almost 62 years of independence, we can write our own report. We have a vibrant civil society. We have a parliament, irrespective of its all weaknesses, that is acting. We have a judiciary that we can criticize. The Home Minister has made suggestions about how judicial decisions can lead to certain problems. We don't need the State Department to tell us what we are doing right and wrong. So I think this is a disgraceful report and we should dismiss it with the contempt that it deserves. Was it not the same U.S. government and its embassy that told us and there were unconfirmed reports of the possibility of a terrorist attack in the north.
Indeed. Professor Aning, so, yes, this...
Oh, please let me finish. Please let me finish. I gave you the time to read this rubbish.
Indeed.
Give me the time to analyze it. Okay? The same embassy has written several things giving travel advisories that are not right. Okay? The unfortunate thing is that our own officials rub shoulders with these embassy officials who seek to destroy and to denigrate us. So please, were we to take all the things you've read point by point, we can also dismiss them. Okay, let's put ourselves based on our own area, because we're ready to assess where the foreign ministry in Accra bold enough to assess the US, even when they did what they did to Floyd. There were efforts to throw it away. So I'm not too enamored by this report. Yeah.
In this instance, Prof, you are of the position that we should also exercise our sovereignty in determining the outcomes of such instances that they capture in the report, correct?
Yeah, and we have been doing that. I mean, civil society is active. Multiple unions raise their voices. Ordinary people are fighting for their rights and to ensure that they can live in freedom without fear. And I mean, these are the things that we expect our partners to identify and to highlight. The positive developments that can contribute to our development. Now, I think they mentioned corruption somewhere.
Yes.
You know, one person doesn't become corrupt. Have they looked at themselves about the role that they play? Their company, individual, the kickback system. Okay? When they do it to us, then it is legitimate. But when we do it amongst ourselves and we cut them out, then they have the bloody audacity to point their fingers. And I think after all these years of independence, we should be bold enough to tell them, you know what, this is not right. We have our own capacity to evaluate our problems, our weaknesses, and where we seek to go. It may be slow, but we are getting it right. I mean, I and a number of my colleagues have been very critical of different governments, and we are here, free to act, work, free to write, free. Both our partners to identify and to highlight and to encourage. Okay? If we were to analyze the Patriot Act in the US, even the books and the downloads and the journals that you take from the library, if they tell in a particular way, you know, you will be watched. And were we to do the same thing here, they will tell us that government is infringing on human rights. There is so much that we can argue for human rights. The sanctity of the state, okay, overrides individual, freedoms. And I think we know it in the US that when 9/11 happened, individual rights were subjected to the broader sanctity of the state. So they have no right to come and preach to us. And I think enough is enough. I am hoping that the foreign ministry will be bold enough to write a robust response to this. Unfortunately, I can tell you point blank that they won't. Because when the embassy wrote about unconfirmed and unsubstantiated reports that people could be kidnapped and there could be terrorist attacks in the north, the foreign ministry was quiet. And it is this failure of our diplomacy, underpinned by an inability to challenge and to use knowledge to project Ghana's interests,
right,
that allows some of these our partners to write what they have written. I think we should treat it with the contempt that it deserves.
Professor Aning, I thank you very much for your time this evening. Portia.